Whoops, didn't realize I was live. Hi, everyone. Hi, Paula. While you guys are signing on, I'm just going to go die cut something really quick. Boy, time flies like from 6 to 7. I thought, oh, I'll have enough time. I have a die that I've been wanting to use, so this will give me an opportunity. Okay, I'm back. So this is the die cut that I've been wanting to use from Penny Black. So I'm not sure if it works with what we're doing, but we're going to use that tonight. And put all my little pieces up here so I could see them. Okay. So this is what we're using tonight. We're using the Wow Embossing Ink Pad. I needed, when I was doing my demo or practicing yesterday on some of the techniques, I needed to ink my pad. And this is the re-inker. And what I like, it has that metal ball in there. So instead of squeezing and having to work in your refill, it kind of just rolls on there and just evenly disperses that the refill, the fluid, right in your pad. So that's kind of nice. Like that. I really like the Wow Embossing products. Yes, you can use Versamark, but I kind of switched over this. I find this is a little bit wetter, and there's some really cool techniques that Wow has. So I've been kind of switching over to this. So I don't know if a lot of you guys out there emboss. How many people really kind of pull out their embossing ink? I find it's kind of probably more likely that you don't kind of bring out embossing, because there's so many other products that I think we forget about it. And so it's nice to revisit things that we used to use all the time and oh my gosh, I have that, let's use it. So while we wait, let me just run and get, grab a couple other embossing powders that I have at home. Went in my embossing drawer and I grabbed a bunch of stuff. So we have regular embossing powders and we have some of the distress glazes. So I didn't get a chance to use those yesterday, and what I'm going to show you in a little bit. So it may work and it may not, but it's all good. Whoop. Okay, so they're probably my two favorite embossing powders that we carry in the store are Hero Art. I love Hero Art. I've been using their powders for years. And then Wow. And the cool thing, Hero Art has your basic. We carry their white is awesome. And they have an ultrafine white and ultrafine clear. They're silver, they're platinum, they're black, kind of your basic copper. They have a red, and once in a while they come out with a new color, but maybe a handful of colors. Wow, I think on our shelf we may have 50 different colors. And what's cool about Wow embossing powder, for example, this is just a primary, just a regular embossing powder. and they have a million different colors. And this one is like this aqua. And then they have a lot of mixes. And you can see this has probably some aqua in there. It looks like it has some silver and white. And fun. Because we probably don't use those, because you're thinking, if I'm going to emboss a word or something, I just want my gold, my black, my basic. So what do you do with all these other colors? So that's what we're going to kind of play a little bit tonight. So this is their ultra high gloss gold. And the other thing that you may not notice in ultra, you can see some are really thick and chunky, and some are really like fine and powdery. And each one will do something different and give you a totally different look. And this is Clear Ocean. If you can see, there's like a, so this will probably be like a translucent, and it has like a little bit of a sparkle in it. So those are the main colors that I kind of worked with yesterday, and I'll probably stick with those today. Let me just reach over and grab one other thing that I think we're good. Oh, I wanted a die cut word. Okay, so let's get started. Some things I played with and some things I didn't. So this was on my counter, my little work area, and it's an embossing folder. It's kind of an older design that I've seen around, or something very similar from a lot of companies, but it's a new release from Gina K, and it's not a 3D, it's just a regular traditional embossing folder. So since it's here, let's emboss it. Let's see what we can do if we emboss this. I'll just do half so you can see. And my thought was, I'll take this and just rub over the raised part on one side. And I think I'm going to stick with something soft. Oh, maybe one half will do two different colors so you can see the difference. So I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper. And I'm not going to press hard. I'm just going to kind of run it across the top. So I'm hoping to catch anything that is raised. And I'm just gently patting. And let's use this clear. And I always have coffee filters when I do embossing. I'll just do the whole thing. So some areas have the embossing ink Cadet, and some didn't. So I'm going to turn on my heat gun. This is my heavy duty Milwaukee heat gun. So off to the side I'm going to heat. Maybe I can do it under here so you can see. And this gun heats really super fast, so it doesn't take a lot of time. So there we just kind of embossed the top of our embossing, our embossed paper. And that was this one was the Clear Ocean. Now this is a new release, and I have these on order. So if you're interested in that, just kind of write a little note, a list and a note to me, and we'll make sure that you get it. Now, if I was trying one of these heavy chunky ones, they're not going to adhere as well on top of that fine raised design. So we're not going to do that one. So let's try, for the heck of it, let's try gold on the other side and see what happens. So excuse me again. So there's the gold. Definitely more areas this time for the padding picked up it, but kind of something to remember that you can do is emboss your embossing papers with your embossing powders. When you do your embossing on your papers, we used to call that dry embossing. One of the techniques for dry embossing, and then the wet embossing is with the heat. So there's one little technique right there. Creating backgrounds on your paper with your powders. This is what's like really fun. I have, hopefully this isn't going to make a big problem, but this is 110-pound paper. And I'm going to just kind of create a background. I'm going to take my ink pad and just kind of swipe it on here. And then I'm going to pick a variety of different powders. Actually, we'll use this really kind of chunky black one. And we're just going to sprinkle it on our paper. Now you can use this one by itself, but I think what I'm going to do is add a little bit of gold. Kind of just like a pinch. And I'm going to heat. Now one of the things, because it's really not embedded into that embossing powder, I'm off to the side, I'm actually going to heat it from underneath. And when I'm heating it from underneath, I am not touching the tip of my heat gun to the paper. There's about an inch space underneath. You don't ever want to put your heat gun directly onto the paper. For a second or two you can, but never to heat your product. You'll start a fire and you could actually probably cause some damage. Now, it's hard to show you because my phone's not high enough, but so what's happening, if you can see, one side has been heated and the other side is not yet. But look at that cool background that you're creating. The reason I'm going from the underneath is if I was to go from the top before part of this was melted, it would just blow right off the paper. So now you have this really kind of cool background paper that you created. And one of my favorite things is texture and dimension. And you definitely have this kind of cool feel of this bumpy texture, because in this combination, and this is another new one, Obsidian. You have that thick, chunky embossing powders. And so when they melt, you can definitely see the shape and the design of that. So look at that. That's a cool background. Let's try another color combination. Whoop. Now this is the Distress Glaze. And these are super, super fine. Definitely different from the other. Just randomly kind of putting it on my paper. And antique linen, nope, looking for fossilized amber. I love these three colors together. Okay, once again, we're going to heat it from the bottom. Yeah, that black and white one is really cool. These are definitely more translucent than the others that you're going to see. I can go from the top now because a lot of it I started to melt on the underside. So you have these very, very soft colors. And for the heck of it, I'm just going to go back in and add a little bit of gold. Once again, I'm going to go from the underside. It actually looks really cool in person. What I can clearly see, and you may not be able to, is that the translucent colors are pretty much flat onto the paper. There's hardly any dimension. And then when I put that gold on, because it's a thicker granular than the distressed glazes, it's actually like raised on top of it. So it makes a really cool background. Now, yesterday I did this one on black paper. So this was the Obsidian, and if I move a little bit closer, you can see the black definitely shows up on the black paper. It's shiny, and the white. And depending on how much powder you put on, you'll get a really heavy concentration or you'll get a very light concentration. But no matter what, in the end, like when you save all these, because a lot of times I'll save all my backgrounds that I do, and then I'll make a card from it. Here's one that I did yesterday. It has the gold with the obsidian in there. And you can see that the obsidian has, you know, the white. I think it has a little bit of silver in there and the black. And then the gold was added extra. And then this is the obsidian, just the black and white on paper without the gold. You can see that. Now this one I love. This one was the sea flower, and I'll do this one so you can see. This is another mix. And then I also added some of the clear ocean, which is translucent, and that just made a beautiful background. So I'll show you the sea flower one. This one I definitely want to shake up so that the powders mix up. And when you're in the store, just check out all the different mixes that there are. Oh, I thought I grabbed one of the colors. Probably don't have it here. There's a really cool one that I wanted to try from Seth Appner, which is called Space Cadet. So I'll do that one separately and have it in the store and do it on a picture of a finished project with it. So in one of the, over here, I'll do a heavier concentration that you'll be able to see this really cool sea flower. So that's the sea flower. How cool is that? And it almost looks, I mean, because it's so shiny, it almost looks like those other colors are kind of floating in it. Let me just shake this off. I'm just going to re-ink this. So I'm going to emboss just this word. And I want to use that sea flower, that mix. Oh. And let's heat this. Now, a lot of times, if it's still hot, you can just dip it right back into the powder. You don't need to re-ink it each time. So there's a die cut word. With one of the mixed powders so you can see it a little better. You can see all the different colors in there. And what's really cool that you might not be able to see, but it is definitely raised. And it's like super shiny. It looks really cool. A lot of your die cut panels would be like really fun to use. So what I'm trying to look for to make sure that the ink is over everything. This mix works really well because there's some fine powder in there that definitely hits the paper. My gun is like super hot, it's not taking long at all. See, when it turns shiny, that's when you're done. People have a tendency to overheat. Let's see if we get any of this to... Yeah, I think it cooled too fast. The more layers that you put on, the more embossed it looks. Try to keep some of those big chunks on there. So once again, you have like this beautiful pattern design cut out, and then different textures of embossing powder. And you can see the white in there and the silver and that turquoise. So the other one to finish. So this one is the Sea Flower. This is another one of the new colors. Last week, I took a bunch of educational classes from one of our sales reps groups, and we did several projects with WOW. So that's why I don't have these in stock yet. They're on my order, and they will be coming in. And the last technique I wanted to show you, what you're going to need is parchment paper. I just grabbed my kitchen paper that I had. Let's see where I put it. So I have one for the base and one for the top. And with this, we're just using embossing powders. And this makes a cool background that you could use on a card, which I'm going to show you. But it also looks really cool in junk journaling, mixed media books. So what you're going to do is pick a bunch of different powders, like a combination. So I am going to let's see, I did the turquoise ones yesterday, so I'm going to actually do this one. And what you're going to do is kind of make different piles of your embossing powders. So this is the obsidian. This is a sparkle. And this one is translucent, so it'll be clear. You can see that I actually, have quite a bit. And I'm going to make smaller little mounds of the gold because I don't want it to really kind of overtake. And I have no idea what I'm going to get in the end. It's all a surprise. And I don't know if you can tell, but this is a brighter gold. Not all golds are the same. Less is best. Remember that? Okay. Let me go back and just put a little more clear. Okay. Let's see what happens. I need to make this in a smaller area where this is going to be contained. So you're going to lay another piece of parchment paper on top. And we're just going to start heating this. Remember to move your gun around. The powders underneath are going to heat at different times, so just make sure you keep moving your gun around. Once again, I am not touching the parchment paper. I'm probably about an inch above. And once we've been heating it, now I'm going to go and I'm going to start pouncing. I'm not keeping the gun on there for a long time. I'm just kind of pouncing up and down. And when you're done, you kind of lift up, and you can go back. Now I can just heat this from the top. It'll make it all shiny. And we'll let this cool. And you get this kind of, well, because of the colors that I picked, this kind of cool background. And once it cools, you can actually peel these off and use them on your cards. Let me grab a piece of paper. Robin, this one I knew that you would love. But isn't that a cool technique? So this would just be, I mean, you can use it on a card. You could, use it in your book, your mixed media. But depending on the colors that you put, you're going to get a different look. So let me show you one that I did yesterday. This is all those the other side, the other part was shiny too. If it's not shiny, you can go back and just add a little bit of heat and it'll gloss them back up. And here is this piece that I did. And this is the part I lifted off. On this one, I actually did this right to the paper. This one, I did the 2 pieces of parchment paper. And so this is from yesterday. If I lift this off, so there's really no waste because you'll get 2 different pieces. So it's just kind of fun. And if you have a lot of old embossing powders, it's a good way you get rid of a lot just by experimenting. And let me put this together in a card so you can kind of see and envision maybe how, that would work. Let me just kind of move this. So this is one of Tim's die cuts. But this can go underneath. and all that kind of shiny design goodness can just come up through there. You know what? They say that you can die cut with it, but my concern is because it's actually really kind of brittle. I think I would die cut first and then try to do it that way. But, you know, just experiment. I really like this one, so I don't want to die cut it. If I would have done the black one that I just did on the white paper underneath where it was kind of permanent, then I would probably try that. Definitely the word stamps, because they're nice and bold from Hero, will look really cool. So this I'm going to adhere later, and I'll put this card together and show it later because it needs some decoration on the top. But if you can kind of envision the finish with that. So there's that one. Let's see. This is the flower from Patty Black that I wanted to use. I'm just going to add a little bit of ink. I have no idea if this is going to turn out. I didn't play with one earlier. It was just like, oh, this might look really cool. And it might even look better on here. I don't know about you guys, but, you know, especially when we're doing card classes and we're designing cards, it takes a lot of design changes along the way. Sometimes, you know, I envision something and it comes out perfect that way, but a lot of times it's like, oh, this might be better, this might be better. I don't know how it is with you, but very seldom is like the first thing that I thought of work. I will finish these off Facebook Live, but I just kind of want to give you a little idea. And these might look really cool after I ink them and so on. If I go back with clear embossing powder to give them a shine. Let's see. Always matte. And somewhere are two tiny little flower centers. I might have lost a little flower center. But what I just wanted to show you is just, you know, the papers that we kind of made. We can use them as a background. I think I'm missing my other parts and pieces of this one. So there it is against the black. definitely needs color. The white is too white. I will play with this one and finish that. But my other thought was, you know, if you had some gold in it, this is, you know, using these sentiments from, oh, that actually looks nice. The sentiments from Pink Fresh, they're already foiled. They come in an assorted pack of gold and silver, are really cool. And then we just got the new packs of all gold in. By adding with those little bit of like the gold in here, those will look really cool. So that's all I have for you guys tonight. Anybody have any questions? I promise I will finish these and kind of post a finish picture, and I'll show them again too on Saturday. So let me just kind of recap what we did. We used the embossing powders. We kind of sprinkled them onto our paper. We heated from underneath. And once again, when you're heating, I kind of went this close. I did never touch the back. I always leave that space. The only time I touched it is when we did that pouncing technique, and that was really fast. So we just kind of heated it underneath. Once I see that it's melted and kind of pretty much attached, go from the top. We use different color combinations. Some of the new colors, the obsidian, which is the black and white. That was on black paper. We did the black and white by itself on the gold, or on the white paper. This one we added gold to it to create backgrounds. This particular background was created with the Distress Glazes, which are very translucent powders. And then on this one, we did go back and added some gold embossing powder, which is definitely like that raised effect. We did, oh, here's that. That's that new mixture too. The Sea Flower, which is probably that turquoise with white and gold. We used a die cut and put the embossing powder on the die cut. We did a coverall background and put the powders on a background die cut. And then we did that kind of pouncing technique. So make sure you can actually use the 2 pieces of parchment paper, or you can do one directly onto your cardstock with the parchment paper on top. And so when you peel the, with parchment paper on both sides, you'll be able to peel it off and get this kind of piece, which you can break apart and use little bits and pieces in areas, or just create a whole background. And then this background, which we're going to add to the back of this card. Thanks, Robin. So anybody have any questions? You know, the other thing I want to say is that you can actually, if you have a lot of embossing powders at home, get an extra little container and mix up your own, you know, concoctions and see what you get. But when they mix them, you have to remember there's different thicknesses of embossing powders, which will heat differently and give you different looks. If you put all the same colors, they're probably going to mix and you're just going to get mud. But who knows? It might be a beautiful mud. So I'm going to let you go. I don't see any questions. Everyone have a great evening, and we'll see you Saturday. We have some new products we'll be sharing with you. I'll hopefully have some completed cards to go back and show you what I created. So until then, everybody, we'll see you soon. Have a great evening.